Well, we've been able to consistently watch this storm for over a week in a lot of cases, and we've known that it was going to be mostly rain and wind storm. So now it's just about fine-tuning this timing as the storm continues to move in from southwest to northeast, snowing in the foothills and mountains through the evening into early tomorrow morning. It looks actually a little colder than it did, say, 3 or 4 days ago, so that's probably good news for them. Otherwise, they would just melt all of the snowpack out there. Rain gets heavy into the early morning hours tomorrow over the southern part of the state. That's when we see some strong wind gusts there. Eventually, that all moves into the mid-coast through the middle of the day and into down east Maine through the afternoon. Notice there's probably a break back here at some point, maybe even a peak of sunshine in the middle of the day over southern and western Maine, but then the cold front trails right behind that, and we see another shot of rain and wind. So just be aware of that. It's not over after that first round comes through. Temperatures perhaps popping into the mid-50s. This model's a little bit warmer than others, but I think 50s are certainly on the table. Once that front comes through, the wind will start to settle down a bit, but it really starts dragging in cold air out of the north and west, and that's when we go from 50 or so down into the teens in a very short period of time. So everything out there will freeze. The wind won't help us that much when it comes to that. Sometimes it dries up the moisture, but this will be just too much. We're going to see 2 to 2.5 inches of rain. No real change here. We talk about the wind forecast from when we first put it out, I believe that was Tuesday, to now. I see no reason to change anything because I still think 70 is in play over the mid-coast and down east Maine. 55 to 65 easily attainable, unfortunately, along the coastline and up into Bangor. And then there are lower wind speeds as you head inland a bit. So I think this is the zone where you're likely to see the fewest power outages because we're away from some of the heaviest winds and we're not yet into the snow. There will be enough snow in the mountains perhaps to add to the power outage risk a little bit there. I do think we'll see a lot of those as we talked about. So the winds are generally out of the east-southeast during the height of this. You can see them popping in the upper 50s and low 60s. This is just one model's forecast, but it gives you an idea that we're really ripping here through the middle of the day and into the early afternoon. Bangor, that's giving a 63. That's certainly possible. Rockland and Bar Harbor will be in the 60s. They have a possibility of getting to 70 miles an hour too before the winds shift. And once they shift, we see that colder air move in. So for most of us, these precipitation amounts are just all rain. There's only going to be snow in the mountains and foothills. For the rest of us, this is an all rain event. And so we'll see 2 inches up to 3 inches of rain total before this settles down. The snow, 5 or 6 inches at the highest terrain, which will help offset some of the loss they'll have from that warm sector in between. Coastal flood warning tomorrow morning, I think is going to be a problem. Over some of our beaches, go out towards Wells, for example. Portland downtown, Commercial Street is another example where we're going to have a top 5 highest tide that Portland has recorded, potentially top 3 if the waves pile up just right. So we will have issues that go beyond just a coastal splashover, which we sometimes get with storms. We take a breather, a break, finally, once the storm is over. We're into the freezer on Saturday. Looks nice on Christmas. We've unfortunately kind of lost that in this whole conversation because we're waiting to see what happens with this storm, but it looks pretty nice on Christmas Day. Cold though, 20s and single digits overnight, and then nice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, nothing really going on. A slow trend towards warming at the end of the week. And this is how weather goes, right? By next weekend, in towards New Year's Eve day, we could be in the 50s in parts of Maine, maybe even low 60s down across Massachusetts as the pattern completely flips and we warm up.